It Ends With Us is a romance drama about a woman's love triangle with her rough partner and her first love. So I want to start with a very important disclaimer. For the sake of reviewing this movie, I'm going to be talking a lot about one of its core subjects, which is domestic violence. If this is a tough subject for you to hear about, I would recommend not watching this video. And if this is something that you or somebody you know is currently struggling with, I've linked some resources down below that could potentially be helpful. I would strongly encourage seeking help if you're having a hard time getting out of any difficult situations you might be in. So in this movie, we follow Lily Bloom, played by Blake Lively. Around the time of opening her self-titled flower shop, she meets Ryle Kincaid, played by director Justin Baldoni. He makes relentless attempts at trying to sway her to the point where she eventually succumbs to his advances, and the two of them form a passionate relationship. Things get stirred up when Lily's first love, Atlas Corrigan, played by Brandon Sklenner, shows back up in her life after many years of being apart. This happens during a time where Ryle starts getting hostile, making things increasingly difficult for Lily. So as mentioned, domestic violence is the big topic of discussion, but deep at the center of that, this movie seems to want to be about ancestral healing. It's about the deep-rooted traumas passed down to us from previous generations and the process of acknowledging them so that they can be resolved. Just a quick TLDR on ancestral healing. This is the belief that traumas are passed down to us from our ancestors and that by addressing them, the cycle can be broken. In Lily's case in this movie, her ancestral wound lies in the acceptance, or denial depending on how you look at it, that her relationship might be abusive. Hence the movie's slogan, "We break the pattern, or the pattern breaks us." On the surface, this movie is about the lies we tell ourselves to keep the people that we love, despite the pain they might cause us, in the ways that we brush aside the fact that those people might consciously be deciding to hurt us. Breaking the pattern in these circumstances means acknowledging the fact that we haven't been totally honest with ourselves about the situation and that we need to reevaluate it. So this movie does a lot of things well, some things not so well, and other things are debatable. Starting off with what the movie does well, I thought the initial development of Lily and Ryle's relationship was wonderfully questionable. Right from the get-go, Ryle waves around potential red flags that Lily glosses over because she's blinded by a haze of infatuation. He shows signs of having commitment issues, tempered behavior, and a blatant disregard for other people's boundaries. This is glossed over because, well, I'm not going to deny that Ryle being attractive is a likely factor, but he also doesn't seem entirely bad, and he is charming in some ways. He and Lily do have some exchanges that are easy to find adorable, and that's why this story works, because we need to have some amount of sympathy for them. Had it felt like Lily was in a bad relationship for its entirety, the story would just crumble. We would just be getting mad the entire movie. But on the flip side, had Ryle seemed like an undeniably safe person for Lily to pursue right from the beginning, then it would have made things more frustrating later on. One of the things that definitely helps make Ryle's initial advances feel less daunting is the music in this movie. Music absolutely sets the tone for scenes, making behavior that could be seen as alarming or creepy as innocent and romantic. Throughout the movie, Lily reflects on the times that she shared with her first love, Atlas. This is depicted through flashbacks, but once Atlas shows back up in the present day, the movie is just constantly delivering intrigue for the remainder of its runtime. There are so many times where exclamation points start popping up when things start going down, and things remain pretty interesting all the way up to the end. So some of my discrepancies with this film could be redirected to the book because it's obviously just trying to faithfully adapt this source material while making some little changes here for the screen. But if we're being honest, that doesn't really matter because this is a movie review and not a book review. I watched the movie, and this review is based solely on that viewing experience. The biggest shortcoming of this movie is there are times where it feels pretty cheesy and cliche. It's not like that all the time, but you will occasionally roll your eyes. The dialogue can be pretty sappy. For example,
You have a really nice view.
I do.
oh, brother. There is also something to be said about how important it is to set the stage for a film right, and within the first couple of scenes before the title card, we get a scene that rivals Batman v Superman's Granny's Peach Tea scene in terms of its cringy prop inclusion. Some of the character names are a little bit cheesy. Case in point, our protagonist's name is Lily Blossom Bloom. This is probably a metaphor for our character being a delicate flower who grows into something more beautiful and resilient, but it's a little on the nose. They do address how cheesy her name is pretty early, writing it off with a joke about how her parents must hate her because they're bad at naming kids. But then Ryle is also pretty aptly named because, you know, he gets riled up. But then there's Atlas, whose name I actually don't hate. He is likely named in consideration of Atlas, the Greek god and bearer of the heavens. The metaphor here is that he provides Lily support, with her being the heavens or sky. It speaks to his undying commitment to something beyond himself, even after so many years of him and Lily being apart. So then there is the questionable. I'm not saying that I feel strongly one way or the other with these next few points, and I'm not saying that I'm personally offended about anything. I'm just laying out my thoughts for conversation's sake. Throughout the movie, we see Lily's relationship with Ryle the way that she sees it, and to us, it seems like Ryle is just an inherently good partner. This does kind of insinuate that Lily is just delusional, and that's not really a great way to depict someone in these circumstances. While it might be true that some individuals in tough relationships might actually be dissociating as a coping mechanism, this definitely isn't true for everyone. I can't help but think that depicting her in this light is a little bit reductive, and that some viewers might see her in a worse light or even see her as foolish. It definitely makes for some interesting story developments later, but it's probably not the best depiction of what people affected by abuse generally experience throughout their relationship. There's also something to be said about the way violent acts are depicted. The scenes are all slow motion and they don't show the reactions of the people affected. This definitely softens the severity of domestic violence, which could be seen as good or bad. I can't help but lean a little bit to the side of good, because given how the story develops, if it were to use the traumatic impact of violence as a means of stimulation, then it could just veer into trauma erotica, we'll call it, because we're on YouTube. But then it could be argued that this is bad because it doesn't give people the right idea of how jarring this is for somebody to go through. And it then begs the question, why depict this subject matter if you're gonna do so in a phony way? Those are just some of my thoughts that I had coming out of this movie, but I'm not dying on any hills. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments. So there are potential reasons this movie could be disliked, but setting those aside and considering my overall thoughts of the movie and its story, I thought it was interesting enough. It was a thought-provoking dive into the difficulties of navigating a bad relationship when it's not bad all the time. All things considered, I'd say that this was a decent movie. If you can look past its sappier elements and you're not immediately deterred by the subject matter, then you might enjoy this one. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please give it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you next week with my review of Sing Sing.